Was this a good move for Bezos to come out publicly, transparently, and accuse the National Enquirer of extortion?
Oh, I think it was a great move. I mean, usually if someone's going to be extorted, the person doing the extortion would hold back the goods until that person has a chance to buy them back. In this case, Jeff Bezos has suffered all the damage for the most part, with his family, with his colleagues, with all of us, with the public. And so once the Enquirer went back for round two, he had nothing to lose by coming out with everything.
Well, that's interesting. So if this had been 2 or 3 months ago, might he have not done that? Because in essence, you're sort of saying that perhaps it's not as gracious what he's done as it looks like, because most of the dirt is already out there. Is that what you're saying? I'm
saying that had the Enquirer gone to him before anything was out there, I'm not sure he wouldn't have taken the deal.
Interesting. Dave, what's your view on all of this and the legality of what either side might have done? Is the National Enquirer broken any laws in your view?
Well, first off, you know the old adage, never pick a fight with someone who buys ink by the barrel? Let me add to that. Never pick a fight with the richest guy in the world. Huge mistake. I mean, federal prosecutors have signed AMI to a non-prosecution agreement, which means that AMI needs to be choir boys while this agreement's in place. They can't commit any crime. So if this is criminal extortion, they can not only be charged with the extortion, but they could go to federal prison for violating the original agreement, which stemmed from the Michael Cohen case. So it makes me think that maybe AMI is more concerned with the Jeff Bezos investigation of them than the federal prosecutor's investigation of them.
Davidson, what might be the risks at this stage for Jeff Bezos in going this route? I mean, we don't really know. I mean, AMI had a comment today, had a statement about their position on all this. Don't believe they did anything illegal, obviously. But what are the downsides of now going down this road? Does he have to pursue it, whatever distance it takes him?
Well, that's exactly right. The only real risk for Jeff Bezos would be that if it turns out this was not a political hit, that was not some Saudi black box job, but just somebody who took her phone and sent it in, right, then it looks a little bit conspiratorial.
So, Dave, on that point, stepping away from the potential blackmail part of this, we still don't, of course, know how these pictures and these text messages were secured in the first place. If they were hacked and they were taken without their permission, which it sounds like is the most likely aspect, is it illegal for the National Enquirer to use that information, or is it purely a gift that someone placed on their doorstep and they should run with if they want to?
The National Enquirer will be certain to use the First Amendment as cover to say that, hey, we're using these photos as fair use and we're not violating any laws. But if they took part in the hacking, if there was hacking, that could break a law, that could be a crime. If the investigation by Jeff Bezos uncovers things that, for example, involve money laundering with Saudi Arabia. Remember, he insinuated there was some connection between AMI and Saudi Arabia. All these things could end up in a federal criminal court. So it's too early, but we're just scratching the surface now. It starts with a potential extortion, but it could lead to a lot more.
Well, we haven't heard AMI's full part of the story yet, which I think is important to point out, Dave. And we don't know if there's any criminal finding, right? I mean, the evidence that Bezos presented were exchanges between two lawyers. So what do prosecutors look for to tell whether it's actually extortion and whether there's going to be some sort of criminal wrongdoing?
Right. As far as the extortion claim, it's not a slam dunk by any means. You need, at the federal level, you need two things. You need a property that's been demanded. And the question is whether demanding an end to Jeff Bezos' investigation of them is property under the law. And it could, but it's open to interpretation. And the next thing you need is sort of a bad intent here. And AMI would say, oh, it's First Amendment, it's journalism. But this does seem to be a little over the top. And as such, a prosecutor could bring a claim. But as I said earlier, it's no means a slam dunk.
Just want to dig up a soundbite that we have of Jeff Bezos speaking a couple of months ago at the New York Economic Club, where he did address this topic about being an important figure and whether or not you should therefore expect to get some pressure and some heat.
It is a mistake for any elected official, in my opinion. I don't think this is a very out there opinion, to attack media and journalists. I believe that it is an essential component of our democracy. I think there's probably no public figure who has ever liked their headlines. It's okay. It's part of the process. You know, if you're the president of the United States or a governor of a state or whatever, you don't take that job thinking you're not going to get scrutinized. you're gonna get scrutinized, and it's healthy.
That was the Economic Club of Washington, not New York. My apologies there. Davidson, I guess the point I'm getting to is should he have expected this sort of scrutiny, albeit clearly very personal in nature and perhaps illegal?
I'm not sure anybody should expect this sort of scrutiny where their private messages and pictures and other items are taken from them and printed in a newspaper, but perhaps in the modern world, any of us should expect that.
What would you advise David Pecker right now?
I think he's got to come up with the truth, first of all, because anything other than the truth will backfire. As Dave pointed out, he's operating under a federal non-prosecution agreement. He's in a very tight box for what he does, and he's got to be very careful to stick with the truth. But he needs to explain if this was not the Saudis, if this was not a political hit job, and he just basically felt that he'd already ruined the guy's life, and in exchange for giving him back the pictures and the texts, he just wanted Bezos to stop accusing him of stuff, then he should explain that now.